Tying up a nice little wet fly today. This is the Green Mantle, another wet fly from Ray Bergman's book Trout. Nice little caddis pattern, very handsome little fly with green quill for the tail, some green wool for a body, and green hackle. Just plain natural mallard flank for the wing on this, but when it all comes together, it's just a pretty little pattern. I can definitely see swinging this through some trout streams in the early spring and throughout the summer. Be an excellent little caddis pattern. That's the Green Mantle. So that's the Green Mantle. I'll get started tying. I'm going to begin the Green Mantle here with my hook in the vise. This is a Mustad 33.99 in a size 6. I'll go ahead and debarb that hook. I'm going to attach my thread. Even though it's not a floss body, I'm just using some green wool on this. I'm still going to use a white thread underneath. This is a Danville 6/0 in white, just so that it doesn't darken it up a little bit. You could just go with a black thread if you want. Advance my thread just past the point of the hook. Now I'll tie in the tip. The tip on the Green Mantle is gold tinsel. I'm using a Danville. This is a Mylar silver and gold tinsel in a size 16 and 18. You could go with the size 14 if you want. I'm going to tie this in with the silver side up and advance my thread 3 to 4 wraps down the hook shank. Puts me right about the end of the body and where that tip is going to start. Then I'll put in 5 to 6 wraps down the hook shank, applying that tinsel, and then 5 to 6 wraps back up. Three wraps to hold that in, and our tip is taken care of. Green Mantle has a green tail to it. I'm using some duck quills on this. Don't have any goose that is the right color green that I wanted. Basically, it needs to be a green that's going to match up with the body here, which is just this green wool that I have. So I'm using some duck here. I'm going to get my right and left slips out. I want to match the tips up first. Then make certain that the width on those are the same. They're going to be anywhere from 4 to 5 barbs wide. Tie those in so that they're about almost a hook length, maybe a little bit less than a hook length long. Curing those in with a few wraps. I'll make certain that's right on top. If I have to, I'll trim that off the length of the body, but those are just the length that I want. Rib's going to be the same gold tinsel. I'm going to tie that in also silver side up. That way, when I start to apply it, it will flip over to the gold side. One wrap to secure that in. Now the wool, as I mentioned, this is just some green wool. It's a 4-strand wool. So I actually stripped out 2 of the strands here. That's all I really need for the body on this. I'm going to tie this in so it's a bit long right now because I can trim that back. The thing you have to be careful with this wool is when you're applying the thread on top of it like this right here, it's going to compress that wool. And if I were to trim this the right length of the body right here, then it compresses it and pushes it forward. So it would actually come out to just behind or even over the eye of the hook. So I tie that in a little bit long so I can trim that back a little bit further. And then I can secure all of this down to the hook shank. Giving myself a nice, smooth underbody to apply that wool to. I do want to untwist this. It has just a little bit of a twist in it. I don't want to have a segmented, well, I want a segmented look. The rib will give me the segmentation I'm looking for, but I don't want to have kind of a corded, rounded look. So I want to flatten both of those out a little. And I'm just going to apply this in, wrapping a little over itself, right up tight so no threads showing underneath. By untwisting that and just using 2 strands, I get a nice, smooth, even body. And then I can apply the rib. You can trim some of the wool that's sticking out if you want. Remember, as you're fishing this fly, and certainly as you're catching fish with it, this is going to get all frayed and everything, and kind of fuzzier. That's a word. But to clean it up a little bit right now, certainly you can do that. Advance my thread down to about the eye of the hook. I'm ready to change over to my finishing thread. My finishing thread is going to be a 6/0 Danville in black. I've already waxed the thread here. I'm going to apply that right behind the eye of the hook. Get a few wraps in, not quite back to the back of the head. And then I can trim the white thread and the black tag off. And then I can advance this down to the back side of the head. Now I'll tie in the throat. Throat on the Green Mantle is green Hackle, and I don't have any schlappen, which is normally what I would use in a fly like this, because it's just nice and soft. I don't have any of the right green color, so I'm actually using a green Rooster saddle. It's from a Whiting's American cape, I should say, not saddle. The barbs that are down here towards the bottom of the feather have lots of barbules on them, so they're a little bit softer than what you would find near the tip. So it'll work. So take a little bit off of each side. I get the barbs perpendicular to the rachis so that their tips are even. Peel those off. Match them together. And now I have the barbs for my throat. I want these to go back just past the tip. I like the length on these to be somewhere right in the middle of the throat or the gap of the hook. Secure those on the bottom. at the butt ends of these that are kind of cutting out here. Just take your time, make certain you're getting that in the way you want it. I'll trim off the rest of the butt ends of those barbs. Smooth this area up for our wing. Just one little stray here. As I mentioned before, if you're tying this as a fishing fly, you probably don't need to be quite this fastidious. But if you're going to tie this for display or anything, then you'll want to make it a little bit nicer. For the wing is a Mallard flank, and I'm just going to use a natural, this is not dyed or anything, Mallard flank. I'm going to peel away the shorter fibers here, trim away the excess on the butt end of that. Then I'm going to trim out the middle portion of this feather, so I have a little bit of a V like this. Then I can fold those two sides together to make my wing. I've got my wing. I can now put that in place. A little pinch loop wrap there, pinch wrap. A few wraps to secure it, and scooch that wing back so it's perpendicular. Trim away the excess. Now we'll cover up those butt ends, finishing the head off. I'm going to just put enough wraps in to cover that up and taper that down to the eye of the hook. I've got one little strand here, and I don't know if that's, I think that was thread. Good idea to have some tweezers around just for that reason. Sometimes just being able to reach in with some tweezers, grab those little strands when big fat stubby fingers can't get a hold of it. I'll flatten my thread out and put in an 8 or 9 turn whip finish, a little head cement, and then a couple coats of black lacquer, and the green mantle will be done. A little bit of head cement on both sides there. Wipe away the excess. Now that'll set up here in a few minutes, and I will put some black lacquer on this to complete that. But that's the green mantle. Nice little caddis imitation, pretty straightforward in terms of the parts that you put in here, the tail, the body, the hackle, the rib, all of that. Just a handsome little fly. Thanks for joining me today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.